with this simple subject.
So our sentence could read, the leopard or the crocodiles enjoy tasty tourists. Here, since the plural crocodiles is closer to the verb, we use the third person plural form of the verb to enjoy, which is enjoy.
Now, if we switch things around and change the order of the subjects, well, we have to switch the verb to match. We could also say, the crocodiles or the leopard enjoys tasty tourists. Now that the singular leopard is closer to the verb, we should change the verb to its singular form, enjoys.
So, that's how you avoid the trap of subject-verb disagreement. First, remember to focus on the subject and not be distracted by all those other pesky nouns and appositives that can throw you off. Next, determine whether it is a singular or plural. And finally, use the form of the verb that agrees with that number.
If your subject contains two elements that have different numbers and it's unclear which one to choose, go with the one closest to the verb. Remember, it is only safe to do this when the nouns are connected by the conjunction or, and the noun you decide to go with is one of the simple subjects of the sentence. This is because the verb has to agree with the subject, not just any old noun you find.
Section B, Nouns and Articles. Proper agreement.
Articles are those tiny little words we tend to forget about. You know, a, an, and the. These guys may seem pretty harmless, but if you use them incorrectly, they can get you into hot water.
We stick a, an, and the in front of nouns like when we say, I'll take a shower, I'd really like an apple, or please take me to the train station. Pretty easy, but many times it's not so easy. There are rules for using articles correctly in SEAE, but many situations call for idiom, not cut-and-dried rules.
Idiom is the grammar equivalent of tradition. It's the way we say certain things, just because that's the way we do it. A couple of general rules do exist to cover articles, though.
First, a and an are called indefinite articles. We use an indefinite article before an unspecified noun.
Say I want to say something about a car. I just don't know which car I'm talking about.
So I might write, I want a car. Here we've used the indefinite article a.
What if we want to talk about an airplane, but we're not discussing any particular airplane?
In this case, we can write, I want an airplane. Here we've used the indefinite article an.
The question is, when do we use a and when do we use an?
We use Big Mr. A before all the nouns that begin with a consonant. Consonants are those run-of-the-mill letters like B, C, D, F, all those, you know, and so on. But we use an before nouns that begin with a vowel. Vowels are those special letters like A, E, I, O, and U.
So when we write, I want a car, we use the indefinite article a, because car starts with a C, which is a consonant.
But if we write, I want an airplane, we use the indefinite article an. This is because airplane starts with an A, which is a vowel. So our grammar guide is, use a before all nouns that start with a consonant. Use an for nouns that begin with a vowel.
Let's not forget about our other article, the. The is known as the definite article, and we use it when we know exactly what noun we're writing about. So we can write, the ball is red, so we know exactly what ball we mean, the red one.
Or we can write, here is the mailman, or the house is for sale.
So, the way to use the definite article, the, is to stick it in front of the nouns we know definitely. Get it? The definite article?
Nouns are either singular or plural. Singular means there's just one, and plural means there's more than one. If you use a singular noun as your subject, be sure to use a singular verb. If you use a plural noun as your subject, be sure to use a plural verb. This is called proper subject-verb agreement.
To use proper subject-verb agreement, stay focused on the subject of your sentence. Don't let an appositive or an intervening clause confuse you.
Articles are the words a, an, and the. A and an are indefinite articles. Use an indefinite article when you're not referring to a specific noun. A goes in front of nouns that begin with a consonant, and an goes before nouns that begin with a vowel.
The is known as the definite article. Use the when you know exactly what noun you're referring to.
Part 3, sentence problems.
So there you are, minding your own business, writing great sentences. But there are things out there, lurking, waiting to trip you up. They are the dreaded sentence problems. They come in three horrifying varieties: sentence fragments, comma splices, and run-on sentences. Let's start with sentence fragments, if you dare.
Section A, sentence fragments.
Ah, yes, our old friends' sentence fragments. Remember them? Oh well, then maybe we should review.
A sentence fragment is when you try to pass off a phrase that can't stand alone as a sentence. This can happen in three ways. 1, it might be because the phrase doesn't have a noun. 2, it may be because the phrase doesn't have a verb. Or 3, your phrase may be a dependent clause that's pretending to be an independent clause.
Whichever one of these it is, you've got a sentence fragment on your hands. Now usually this happens when we stick a period where a comma should go. Let's take a look at one of these suckers.
I adore macrame, a lost and treasured art. Do you see it? The first sentence is fine, but the second one, let's take a closer look. Aha! Here's a lost and treasured art is an A positive for macrame. We know that a phrase cannot stand on its own as a sentence, so it looks like we have a dreaded sentence fragment.
The best way to fix a fragment is to hook it back on to the independent clause it needs to survive. And a great way to do this is with a comma. So, to fix this sentence fragment, we could write, I adore macrame, comma, a lost and treasured art.
One of the reasons it can be hard to resist the temptation of writing a sentence fragment is its frequent use in advertising.
Cool, crisp, refreshing. English grammar.
These are called emphatic fragments, and although they can be extremely effective in advertising, they aren't generally accepted in either business or school writing.
So that's what happens when you put a period where you meant to put that comma. But what happens when you put a comma where you meant to put a period? Well, those are comma splices.
Section B, comma splices.
Okay, see, we fall here into the trap of the old comma splice when we stick two perfectly good, complete sentences together with a measly little comma. It's not pretty. Take a look.
I called the witch doctor. He told me what to do. It's so tempting to link these two clauses together with a comma because they are so closely related and we don't want to mess up the flow.
But check this out. Both of these clauses, I called the witch doctor and he told me what to do, are independent clauses. They can both stand on their own as sentences, so we can't join them with a comma. Let's go over that again.
Grammar guide. Two independent clauses cannot be joined by a comma.
However, you do have several options in fixing this sentence fragment.
The easiest way to fix the problem is just to make them two separate sentences. I called the witch doctor, period. He told me what to do.
Not as exciting though, is it? It just doesn't have that flow we all love to have in our writing. So to keep that flow, let's reach into our bag of tricks. We can combine these independent clauses to form a compound sentence.
Remember, to form a compound sentence, you simply hook the two independent clauses together with either a conjunction, a colon, a semicolon, or a dash. Let's try using a conjunction.
I called the witch doctor and he told me what to do. Wonderful! And all we had to do was add the conjunction and.
Now let's try it with one of our forms of punctuation. Since these two clauses are closely related, we probably want to go with a semicolon here. Let's try it on for size. I called the witch doctor, semicolon. He told me what to do. In this case, the semicolon is sort of like saying and. Looks like a winner to me.
There is one extra special time when you can get away with a comma splice. Say you need to fuse together 3 or more very short sentences. Take the following.
I egg your house, you run over my bike, you get mad, I get mad, suddenly we're both screaming.
Each of these short clauses can stand alone as a sentence, but because they're so short, we can get away with joining them with commas. So check your sentences to be certain you haven't connected 2 or more independent clauses together with a comma. Be vigilant and you will avoid the dreaded comma splice.
Section C, run-on sentences.
You know how when some people talk, they just go on and on and on and on? Well, sometimes the sentences we write just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. We call these guys run-on sentences.
A run-on sentence is an attempt to try to jam together 2 sentences into one without using punctuation between them. You know, it's kind of like a comma splice, with no comma.
While run-on sentences do tend to be long, the length of a sentence does not have anything to do with whether or not it is a run-on. A run-on is a problem with the structure of a sentence, not its length. Consider the beginning of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
A long sentence, yes, but its structure is fine. So it's not a run-on sentence, just long.
Here's what a run-on looks like. I usually eat too many candy corns on Halloween and get a stomach ache. How about you? Obviously, we need to break this up into 2 separate sentences. I usually eat too many candy corns on Halloween and get a stomach ache. How about you?
We might sometimes write a run-on sentence because we're afraid to separate 2 closely related thoughts. They usually happen during our first draft of writing something. If we take the time to read over our work, we can catch most run-ons. Just remember that a sentence has a subject and a predicate. Then if you find a sentence with lots of subjects and predicates, break the sentence up.
A sentence fragment is a phrase that can't stand alone as a sentence. This may be because it doesn't contain a noun or because it doesn't contain a verb. Or it could be a dependent clause attempting to masquerade as an independent clause.
A comma splice is when 2 complete sentences are joined by just a comma. There are 2 remedies for a comma splice. You can separate them into 2 freestanding sentences, or you can join them by a conjunction, a colon, a semicolon, or a dash.
A run-on sentence actually contains 2 sentences which have no punctuation between them. Break these guys up into different sentences, or insert the correct punctuation mark between them.
Part 4, Finding Clarity.
We all want our writing to be clean, clear, and lucid. Well, it's not too hard if you avoid the grammatical traps of tense shifts, vague pronoun reference, and faulty parallels. We'll go over each starting with tense shifts.
Section A, tense shifts.
We covered verb tenses quite a bit in the split infinitive world of English Grammar Part 1. Basically, a verb can take different forms depending on what tense it's in.
A tense shift, then, is when we improperly switch the tenses of the verbs midway through our sentence.
Tense shifts usually happen when we're constructing compound or complex sentences. Let's look at an example.
The show opened with a big musical number that involves fireworks. This sentence begins in the past tense with the verb form opened, but then halfway through switches to the present tense with the verb form involves. This just isn't consistent and can really confuse the reader.
This sentence can be fixed easily by making sure all the verbs are in the same tense. This ties into that whole consistency thing. With regards to tense shift, most of the time we want to choose a tense and stick with it throughout the sentence.
The verbs in our sentence are opened and involved. We can either put them both in the present tense or put them both in the past tense. Let's try it with the present tense first. The show opens with a big musical number that involves fireworks.
Or we can have both of our verbs in the past tense, which gives us the show opened with a big musical number that involved fireworks. This is fine because both of the verbs in the sentence are in the past tense, not just one.
Again, this is the kind of mistake that usually is just the result of writing too fast and losing track of which tense you're using. You can easily catch correct tense shifts if you pay attention to the consistency of the verbs in each sentence.
Section B, vague pronoun reference.
So Sandy's sitting next to Susan, and I said that I think that she should move over and sit next to her, but she says she doesn't want to sit next to her.
Who? She?
No, her. Pronouns take the place of nouns, that we know. But when we use a pronoun, it should be very clear what noun we're referring to.
Suppose we say the Yanks are way ahead of the Sox, who are playing great ball too. They've had a great season. Whoa, see that they? Who is it referring to, the Yanks or the Sox? You see, it's not really clear. It could be the Yanks because they're way ahead, or it could be the Sox because they're playing great ball. We've got to make a change. The best way to fix this is simply to get rid of the pronoun. So let's take that pesky they out of there. Now we have to decide who's having a great season. Let's say it's the Sox. So we keep our first sentence the same, and in the second sentence, take out the pronoun they and insert the Sox. So we have the Yanks are way ahead of the Sox, who are playing great ball too. The Sox have had a great season. Now that's a lot clearer, isn't it?
So be careful when you use pronouns. Straight up, if it's not clear who or what you're referring to, then don't use the pronoun. Check out this problem sentence.
Jimmy told Joe to give back the boxing glove before he hit him with it. Wow, that's pretty vague. Who's hitting who? We might guess Jimmy will hit Joe with the boxing glove, but we can't be 100% sure.
Let's clear things up and make Jimmy the one who'll hit Joe with the glove. Jimmy told Joe to give back the boxing glove before Jimmy hit him with it. Sounds pretty good. The sentence, not the possible altercation.
So be extra careful when you've got a pronoun that can refer to more than one noun in your sentence. There's one more vague pronoun reference trap that we can fall into. When we try to capture a really complex idea with a pronoun like this or which, we could really make things confusing. Suppose I say,
Someone is spreading vicious rumors. They say that Scooter is going around throwing coconut cream pies in his friends' faces. This is not to be tolerated. What in the world is this referring to? Does it refer to the vicious rumors, or does it refer to Scooter throwing the pies? Do you see how easy it is to confuse a reader just by using the tiny pronoun this?
The best way to fix this vague pronoun reference is probably to just do away with the pronoun this altogether. Our sentence may not be as short and sweet, but it will make sense. So we can say,
Someone is spreading vicious rumors. They say that Scooter is going around throwing coconut cream pies in his friends' faces. Such scandalous gossip is not to be tolerated. There. No vague pronoun reference, no confused readers, and no funny aftertaste.
Now let's look at that third trap that can keep us from finding clarity, faulty parallels.
Section C, faulty parallels.
At first, faulty parallels sound like something that will keep you from succeeding in Olympic gymnastics, or something your car mechanic would say to explain why the simple repair you expected will suddenly cost in the thousands. But first things first, let's talk about parallels, then we'll go into what can make them faulty.
Parallels are elements in a sentence that perform the same function and which should be formed the same way. Structuring parallels correctly is a great way to show your readers you think logically and are a lean, mean writing machine. Here's an example of good parallelism.
As soon as I get home, I'm going to trim the hedges, wash the dishes, and fry the bacon. Each of the elements on this list is structured the same.
We have trim the hedges, wash the dishes, and fry the bacon. Well, they're all verb phrases.
Now that was proper parallelism. Say that 5 times fast. Let's purposely mix things up.
As soon as I get home, I'm going to trim the hedges, I will wash the dishes, and the bacon needs to be fried as well. Although this sentence is grammatically correct, it lacks the order and clarity of our first sentence. Now, with these different constructions, the rhythm is very choppy.
Here's another case of faulty parallelism. Representatives from the Onion Society, from the Tuber Appreciation Association, and Up with Root Vegetables attended the protest. Not all of these elements have been structured the same way. The first one, the Onion Society, heads off our list and comes complete with the preposition from. From this point, we can decide to go one of two ways.
First, we could carry the preposition from with each of the parallels on our list. This is what we did with our second parallel, from the Tuber Appreciation Association. Or a second route we could take is leaving the preposition where it is and letting it go for all three parallels, like we did with the third one, up with root vegetables.
Are you beginning to see our problem? We carried the preposition with us for the second item on our list, but left it where it was for the third one, giving us a horrible case of dreaded faulty parallelism. We can fix this problem two different ways.
We could go the way of the tubers and carry the preposition all the way through, giving us representatives from the Onion Society, from the Tuber Appreciation Association, and from Up with Root Vegetables attended the protest.
Or we could just use the preposition from once and simply write representatives from the Onion Society, the Tuber Appreciation Association, and Up with Root Vegetables attended the protest.
Either way, we end up with a much better overall sentence, all because we paid attention to good parallelism.
There are three traps that keep us from finding clarity in our writing. They are tense shifts, vague pronoun references, and faulty parallels.
Tense shifts are when we improperly switch verb tenses during a sentence. Try to decide on one verb tense and stick with it.
Vague pronoun reference is when we use a pronoun in a sentence, but we aren't really clear about which noun we're referring to. Oftentimes, removing the pronoun and simply using the noun can alleviate the problem.
Parallels are elements in a sentence that perform the same function and should therefore be constructed in the same way. Faulty parallelism occurs when these elements are not constructed consistently.
Part 5, not your uncle's English grammar. Acceptable errors.
We've tried in our program to teach you about the mistakes almost any teacher or boss will catch. But there are a few things that are widely accepted in SEAE that aren't accepted by everyone. We'll give you a rundown of the so-called errors that these days only true sticklers object to.
So remember, things that are allowable in one type of writing, like a letter to your Aunt Murgatroyd, might not be acceptable in something more formal like an honors thesis.
Section A, use of contractions.
A contraction is a sort of shortcut we use in speech. It's like when we say I'm instead of I am, or he's instead of he is. While there is absolutely nothing wrong with contractions in terms of grammar, it does tend to make your writing style seem a little informal.
While we're on the subject of contractions, we're going to bring up a common mistake that's easy to make and definitely one of your teacher's top 10 pet peeves. Confusing contractions with possessive pronouns. Big no-no.
One of the biggest problems is with the words it's and its. If we go by what we normally think is right, it seems like it''s is a possessive pronoun.
That's because we might say, that is Peter's bicycle. Peter possesses the bicycle, so we slap an ''s on the end of Peter.
But things are a little bit different with its and it''s. The possessive it just takes an s on the end of it.
So